Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and today we're going to be going through RetroGrade for Atari 2600 games for Sega and Telesys. With me I have Wyatt, and as per usual, we're going to go through and rate all the games that we just had a live stream for earlier. So if you want to check that out, there should be a link somewhere up here or there for the live stream, so be sure to check that one out. So why don't you lead us off? Sega first.
Sure, I can do that. Sega, classic game company, super interesting history. And their first game, well, it wasn't their first game on the system, right?
These are alphabetical, so I'm not sure which one was first.
Sure, but these are all
they think came out like in 83.
They're the ones that they made for this system, because I believe there were other Sega properties that got adapted before this that we played, like the Penguin one, I think.
Was that Sega?
I thought it was. Doesn't really matter.
I think it was Namco, but yeah.
There was at least one Sega game in there, but Sega didn't make it. This is where they started making things. But the first one we played, I guess, then, is Buck Rogers. Was there a subtitle?
The Planet of Zoom and the Planet of Zoom.
The Planet of Zoom. Oh, man. This one was kind of interesting. B or A? B or A? Gonna put it in B, I think. Because it was solid. It was tight. It was a tight experience. It had multiple screens that were kind of cool. But it was also really kind of hard to follow at times. It was just going way too fast and the flashing. And
yeah, the bars on there, they just start coming and they just start...
And they don't stop coming.
They give you like a strobe effect.
And that can be difficult to look at. So I'm going to give that a B because I think... As an overall game, not bad, but just some of the decisions didn't really nail it for me.
It's not a rock star in your mind thing?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Not an all-star?
All-star, sorry.
How dare you. Can't even
do the thing right.
Can't even do it right.
All right, I'm sorry.
But, sorry, but, whoops. Go on. You're also giving it a B, I say.
Maybe. I don't know. You don't know me. Yeah.
No.
So for me, I had played this game a lot on the 8-bit, which was definitely, I think, a better experience, but not dramatically. It was one of those cases where, we played through at the end of the stream. We played the 8-bit version, and it was it was better, but there was parts that were slow and stuff, so I don't know if it really had the same kind of feel. But overall, I've always liked the game in general. The 2600 version is just maybe a little bit less than the other version, but...
Sure. I can get behind you on that one.
Decent.
So that one, not bad. Congo Bongo, I'm going to give a C.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about trying to play it. It did have multiple screens, but it was visually difficult to figure out what you were doing.
That whole thing on the right-hand side, it was like, what is this?
What am I doing? Where am I going? How do I get there?
Yeah.
You have to be really precise in your jumping, which they did not make very easy for the 2600 version.
Right.
And even though there were some cool graphics, it was just a little visually difficult all around.
All those colors kind of meshing together. It was like everything was great on the left-hand side of the screen. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. On the right-hand side of the screen, it's like, what the hell happened? It just exploded on the screen.
What are we doing?
Yeah, and I'm gonna give it a C.
Yeah, the fact that I could get through it to the second level without taking forever.
Yeah,
it got figured out within not an overly terrible time frame, but no, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. And that's a C, so. Spy Hunter.
Spy Hunter. You've got Star Trek first on yours.
Oh, no, I don't. I see nothing.
Spy Hunter.
I had to actually line these order them correctly, yes.
Oh, man. That's a pain.
Yes, it is.
Well, now we've got them all correct.
The pain that I go through for you.
For me.
For them.
For you. But not for me.
I did. I made this for you.
I made this for you. So Spy Hunter is a pretty easy A for this version of it. I find it difficult to quite give it the S because of little things. Like just kind of difficult at times to maneuver, I guess. You know, it was fairly smooth for the most part, but it just there wasn't quite enough for me to give it that extra bump into S. It's just really fun, but especially after seeing it on the 8-bit, which I know
I'm already kind of biased in that regard.
in some ways that does color it, but I think my opinion is still just based on the experience that this was. It was good, but it wasn't so good. You know, it wasn't enough to push it over that last little bit.
Yeah.
It's not one I'm going to go home. This version is not one I'm going home thinking about.
Yeah, I for me, I'm probably going to go in B for that reason. I mean, yes, I have played this a lot. Spider, I played it a lot, and the 2600 is just, it's hard for me to give it a much higher grade just because it was just, it's cool, it's fun, but it just, it wasn't quite up in the higher tier for me. And plus, I didn't want to copy it, so.
Fair enough. Of course, can't do that. But we got Star Trek next. Star Trek is another one I think I'm gonna pretty easily put that above Spy Hunter for this version. That was just a very straightforward, simple, but very fun game. It had good visuals. Everything worked really well. It had the song occasionally. It just did what it was trying to do, and I am not gonna fault it for that.
I can't disagree. It was, I had never really actually played it before. And yeah, it was very obvious really early on what you're trying to do. It's like, oh, okay, and then and you kind of could intuit what you're trying to do as you go, and all the different screens and all the different things. It was cool. I like the fact that you kind of got close on the top part, and then you dialed it in with the bottom part. Yes, you're doing the same thing, but yeah, it's just like your focus changes, even though the controls are still the same. It's kind of a weird kind of.
They did it well though. It was
you know what I'm talking about, right? Because it's like it's the same controls, but you just get it close on the top and then dial it in, and it's like, but it's the same controls. It's just your focus is a little different. I don't know.
It's a very interesting way to do it, and I think they really nailed it. To be honest with you, the next one is so anyway. Star Trek just was fun. Now I got to say that one more time. Just. That's a fun game. I go back to say that mostly because Subscan, not a very fun game.
In a contrast.
Kind of boring, actually. Very dull. Yeah. And I hate saying that about things because it's like, I know there's a lot to a lot of different games, but there's just so little going on and slowly in Subscan, as far as I could tell. And to the point where I almost want to put it in D, but it didn't not work or not make sense.
Right.
What you're doing made sense. And once you...
Very slowly.
It's just slow and very monotonous to get there. So I'm going to give it a low C because I don't think it deserves to get dragged, but...
But you're dragging it.
I mean, I'm giving it critique. C for critique instead of D for drag.
I think the speed of it really just dropped it down. I think if it were, if the bombs could fall faster and the subs go faster, I think it could be a lot more fun. I think just with it being so slow, it was just waiting and waiting and waiting.
It's just a slog.
I missed. Okay.
Yep, great.
You're too late.
And you can only throw out so many at the same time, and you can't go right beneath you.
No, it was a little rough. I like the fact you could shoot on both sides. That was kind of cool.
That was fine, but it didn't do much. Yeah. And the fact that you couldn't drop out the bottom meant that if one got underneath you, you have to move and then throw it off the other side and hope you were fast enough to get there. And just timing's all over the place. Not a great experience for...
Yeah, funny, if it dropped out the bottom, it would be similar to some of the other games that we played. But it might have been a better experience, especially if it dropped faster.
Yeah.
Speed up the boats, drop those faster. I could see it being, and I think also having other things, like having them shoot up at you.
Just having something else going on. Yeah. It was just so one note.
Yeah, and I think that...
And the note wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it could have been better. Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
Could have been better.
And it wasn't technological reasons. It was just gameplay reasons.
Just a decision they made. So,
Yep.
And then there's Tac-Scan. That's the one where you're Tac. Is that right?
Tac.
I thought it was Tac-Scan this whole time.
Tac.
I think. But that's the one where you're multiple ships flying around. That one was way more fun.
Oh yeah.
That one was pretty good. Even I'm gonna put that in a high B. I liked flying around. The fact that you got one ship back at the end of each level meant that, you could go on quite a streak, even if you lost some guys. And it meant that if you could, keep that streak back up, because the fewer guys you have, the less likely you are to blow up. So you have more chance to get guys back and then do more damage, put out more shots and stuff. It was balanced pretty well. It just didn't excite me otherwise. It wasn't like a lot going on.
Yeah, I liked it because, I want to give it an A, actually. I liked it because I felt like it was definitely like a Zen kind of thing. It was just like, while we were talking, I'm just playing, but I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it was still, it's like, that's one of the things when you can do something while you're doing something else, like almost to the point of watching TV or doing that.
Sure,
you can carry on a conversation. But the thing is that's sort of like, for me, that's kind of got an interesting quality to it, in that you're not sitting there concentrating on it. It's like, no, just blasting the guys. Oh, cool, I got another dude. And I'm just playing. I play it for a good 5 minutes and was just having fun with it. And so I'm giving a higher ranking because of that. So
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Tapper. Tapper's a fun game. This version, I'm trying to think of where to rank it, because I quite like Tapper. In general. This version of Tapper, I can't think of too much that's wrong with it, which is a good thing.
Technologically, I think it did all of the things.
I'm going to give it a mid-A. I might put it up a little higher, but there are little things like the fact that the Atari 2600 cannot feature the amount of fidelity needed to track a soda as it's being swapped.
Right.
Because there's not smooth enough animation to very easily follow it. You can do it. We did it once, but it's just like way harder than that would normally be or is now with more modern graphics. Little things like that. The Mountain Dew crossover was kind of weird, but very cool that they have crossovers with different soda and beer brands across their different versions. I liked it, though. I can't really say that this version is an S, though. That's the tough thing, is we've given out enough S's at this point that it's like, man, that's got to be something special. And this one is good, but not so incredible.
Yeah. See, the deal is, I like Tapper. I don't love Tapper. It's kind of one of those things that I have played it, over the years, and now the 2600 version, which plays very well. It plays, very well. I have no problems with that. My problem is the game itself. I'm gonna go in the B range, high B. It did what it was set out to do. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. It's one of those things. I do like it, but it's not one that I'm like, oh, I gotta play Tapper. I've been in arcades before. It's like, oh, they got a Tapper. It's like, cool. I'm not drawn to it. Towards like, I gotta play it.
It's not always your.
I think
bag.
My biggest problem with it is the chaos involved. Too many things are going on, and it's really, that's the point of the game. It's basically juggling. Oh, you gotta get this and go over there, get this, and it's too much to me to make it. It loses
too much to have fun with.
Yeah,
sure.
Kind of like comparing it to Tac-Scan. Tac-Scan, you're just shooting stuff. You're not really doing anything crazy. Whereas Tapper, there's so many things you have to do. Oh, get 3 of those there, 2 of those down there, and go get the bottom. Make sure you do this. Cognitive load. I think it just gets too much for me, and to where it's fun.
Fair enough. Yeah. That can definitely happen. I understand that. What's this? What's his next one? Thunderground. That's right.
With the shooting,
you're digging,
it's like a mole.
Kinda, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure. You're clearing stuff away at the very least, and there are tanks, and they follow you eventually.
Kinda.
Mostly
they just look like target practice.
And you have to shoot at fancy glowing either reactors or targets or something that is behind a wall that you have to dig through up top. Oh boy. I am going to give this one a B. High B, I think, because I thought it was interesting. It did something a little different. But it just wasn't very exciting. Every single level was the same one. Sometimes there wasn't stuff to dig through, though. But also there was still stuff hidden around.
Right.
So it was still basically the same. And again, the tanks wouldn't move right away to chase you or anything.
It was kind of dig-dug with a car kind of thing.
A little bit, and just like the shooting was interesting, and you gotta shoot those things, and eventually they pop up in sequence instead of all being there. That can add a little bit of intrigue, but it just wasn't like exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It was solid, but it wasn't something where I'd be like, oh, I gotta play that again. I got to figure out what I was missing in that game, and it just seemed pretty straightforward. It was interesting because it was different.
Yeah,
you have to dig through the dirt or whatever and get to the stuff you got to blow up. But it was decent.
Sure,
that's B for me,
and I think that's fair for it. Still, really cool concept. I think it just could have been more.
Yeah.
Oh man, this next one's kind of hard for me because up and down, not up and down. It's up and down. Was more than I was expecting it to be. Right at first, I was like, "Oh, this is annoying. If you jump, you're always jumping off the edge." But once I got a little into it, it was like, "Oh no, you can jump across, and you just gotta time it a little bit, and you can get moving and jumping over guys and blowing them up." And it still has difficulty because you can't like directly run into people, but you can turn around. You can
going backwards. That was interesting.
You can go up and down, which is the thing that I thought that was about the jumping. But I think it really is.
I think I did too. But yeah, you can go up and down.
And so that kind of optional direction is kind of interesting because it gives you a little bit of a feeling of choice. It also makes it feel like, oh, I'm stuck. There's a guy coming. You can get away still.
Yeah. You can jump over him or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of play options to it, and I was actually having a pretty fun time with it. I think I'm going to give it a pretty reasonable A, because in not very long, it grew on me once I figured out what was going on, and I was just starting to get into a flow sometimes. I wanted to keep playing, I think, is part of it.
Yeah, I think biggest thing for me, I love the playability. The graphics were a bit hard because they were like isometric.
The tough thing is they were unique. They weren't bad, but they were different enough.
Yeah, it was. The problem is that they were at an angle, and that's really hard to do when you don't have many pixels, and you really kind of have to have them at an angle for this game. So that's where it was like, oh, they're a bit rough. But the playability was cool in that, I love the fact that it has the flags on there. You know what you're trying to get. They had other things that you could get too, bonus points, I guess.
Like
ice cream.
Lollipops. Food is always the bonus for some reason.
Yeah. Always. As far as how playable it was, I liked it as well. I'm going to probably go probably mid A for me. It was fun. I mean, I kind of want to track down the arcade version.
A little bit, yeah. I think that would be interesting even cooler.
To see, yeah. So
the next one is
now we're moving over to Telesys.
Yeah, so this is the Telesys.
We did Sega.
Quick sum up. I think Sega's pretty top heavy for me, and I think part of it is just a lot of these are just quality releases. They're not.
They were later. That was one thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely, but
I think releases. So.
As much as that is true, I still got to say they really they knocked a lot of these pretty handily out of the park. I think they knew what they were going for, and I think it's just the fact that all of these, save for the two at the bottom, are just solidly made. Mm-hmm. They play well. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of what they play. Sure. I think they play exactly as intended. Mm-hmm. And so I gotta really, give accolades where they're due. Good job, Sega. Good job. You should make more games. I wonder if they ever did. Yeah. The next one is Telesys, though. which I don't know almost anything about. They showed up and then died, apparently, because of the crash.
Yep.
Which is sad. I hope all those developers lived. I hope they didn't also die. That would suck.
Yeah, it really suck.
But their first game is... I feel bad because I'm like... I think overall Telesys was also pretty good, but I did not like Coconuts as much.
Okay.
Coconuts was kind of dull. It had solid graphics, but it didn't have very many of them.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to give it a low C.
Okay.
Because you're just kind of very easily avoiding a bunch of coconuts for a good long...
It gets a little harder.
It gets harder, but for a long time, it's not very hard.
Yeah.
And also, there's just nothing going on in the background.
It's just really simple.
It's just a black void that this is purgatory for this man who is...
constantly avoiding coconuts. That's he can't ever get back at the monkey, can't throw the coconut back at him.
No, he's also just got to walk back and forth between these two trees.
Yeah.
The only two trees.
Yes.
But even if they had just, like, if you look in the cover art there, just throwing that vague green background, like a hill even, would have gone a long way to make this more interesting. It just, there wasn't a lot to look at.
The whole, a lot of these games I love when they do, like, just the little sunset or they do the horizon. It's kind of neat. If it showed you actually on a beach or something, that would be cool.
Just somewhere.
Yeah, black background is, you mentioned that in the stream, I'm like, yeah, you're right. There's not much going on. There's no background. It's like almost like they forgot to put one in.
Yeah, it's like they had the full ability. It's not like this game was so demanding that they had no space for a background.
Yeah, this seems very much like a kind of a beginner project, in my opinion. As far as, it is good as far as it's not broken, like you've said, and the graphics look decent, but it's almost like, yep, that's the game, and it's
good job, everyone. Go home.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that seems like something you can kind of just whip up and not really worry about doing anything more with, and it just seems like they could have maybe done something else. I don't know.
Something was here. Avoiding stuff can be fun.
Sure.
Just dodging is a lot of fun sometimes.
Sure, but it needs more. It needs something.
It needs variety of some sort, whether that's visual or gameplay. But
ideally both.
Yeah, preferably. From Coconuts to Cosmic Creeps, which is another game. I feel bad. I had fun with a lot of these games, I swear. That's another one I'm going to have to put somewhere in C, because you die really easily when you're trying to get to your ship, which all the whole point of that is you get up to your ship and then you shoot down. And it was so easy to get into a rhythm where I was just destroying them for forever. And I was unclear if I was supposed to be doing something else, but eventually the game is just like, all right, you're done now.
Yeah.
You have finished, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like a very half-baked idea.
Yeah, I don't...
It was kind of like the theming and stuff. I was like, all right, so you're at the bottom, you get to your ship.
And then you pull up the ladder behind you. These are also people who wanted to get on this ship. Yeah, you just stole the bus, and now you're like shooting at people at bus stops. I don't...
it was weird.
It's an unclear concept, I think, in a lot of ways. I don't really know what they wanted out of it.
Yeah. Let's see. But I would say I liked it better than some of the others. So I'm gonna put it at a high C for me.
I think that's fair.
It was interesting.
Again, it's not like it's a terrible thing or anything.
No, it was kind of weird.
It's just not.
Yeah, but it looked like the concept needed to make a little bit more.
Much, I think, is part of the problem.
Yeah. Demolition Herby.
Demolition Herby.
Well, what was that?
I forgot the name because we were just calling it.
Yeah, it's like Amidar clone.
Yeah,
but was it better than Amidar?
I would say so, honestly. A lot more going on.
It was kind of cool. We played it for a while.
We did. So I'm going to give that one a low A, I think, because that's what Amidar, whatever, should have been, in my opinion. it was a lot faster paced. You're avoiding things that are much
Omnidar
more...
was very much a slog. You're
Yeah.
like, versus this is like... Well,
This is gaining, you're gaining the territory. You're trying to avoid the various trucks and stuff around. Also, the framing of it being some sort of demolition derby thing. A little weird, but it does explain why the cars were so aggressive. I was like, why is this truck gunning for me? That makes a little bit more sense now. But I want to play that game again and get better at claiming the territory. So that's why I'm ranking that one so high. Because that it just had an interesting take on that formula.
I'm going to go with a B. I'm going to go for a high B. It was pretty fun. We played it for a while.
That's a big thing, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure I need to play it again, but it was kind of neat.
It just had enough that for me, I felt like if I play this again, I don't know if I'm going to see more or different things because it's like
we never cleared the board.
No, and it's a large enough board.
It's a huge board,
but it was it's solid.
Yeah.
I just had a solid time with it. So. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it draws me back a little bit for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's the fact that you can just go really fast sometimes.
I don't know.
You can just speed.
Yeah, I did like that feature, just being like, oh, I'm going to get killed, so I got to...
Anytime that there's a sprint or a speed up button, I always appreciate it because sometimes it's just annoying to have to...
get a jail-free card. Yeah,
sometimes,
like, get away from a guy or something. Yeah.
So, I liked it. Their next one was fast food. Mm-hmm. This one's hard to rank because
you're getting fatter. Thanks, game.
So weird, yeah. Such a strange.
I don't need you to criticize me.
Because again, out of context, it's like, all right, you're catching food, and I get that, and then it's like, you're getting fatter.
I know.
It sounds like an insult. Or
first time I played that, I'm like, wait, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. All right.
Yeah, it sounds like a loss condition, like, oh, no, I got too fat or something.
Nope, that's the goal.
Okay, sure. Try to fatten up. So that was pretty interesting.
The mouth is a little
unsettling. I didn't... the 2600 mouth is just floppy. It was really weird for an anthropomorphic mouth to look like that. Overall, though, that one's like another, like, collect the right things, avoid the bad things. But it did it. It was really well polished for that.
Yep.
The black background didn't really detract from this one as much as some of the others because, you're focusing on those multiple things are happening.
I think it would have been maybe bad if you had a background because
it could be a
stuff
little...
that's going so fast.
It's visually overwhelming.
Yes.
It could be. So I think this one gets a little bit more of a pass for that. But also, at the same time, it is so just don't pick up purple and you win.
Yep.
And it's like, that
gets really hard.
That can get really hard, but it's like, to me, does that deserve a high B or a low A? I think I'm going to give it a high B just because it did what it set out to do, but it's also not a revolution of a game.
No, it's not engaging really. I mean, it's cool. Again, it does set out to do what it's going to do.
It did what it needed to for the kind of game that it is.
Yeah.
And you can just really get in the zone and play it. So I think it deserves a high B for me, but it's just not something that's ever going to bring me back in much.
No, it's a mid B for me. It's one of those things that's like, that's cool, but kind of take it or leave it. We saw the game. We saw like pretty much everything there was to the game. So,
sure.
Yeah.
I think I might give it a slightly lower high B, but I also now have to decide where to put Ramit, the next one, because I don't really want to put it in A, but I did have a lot of fun playing it.
It seemed pretty chaotic, though, trying to get that
done. It was difficult, but it was the kind of difficult where it's like, if I get my pattern down and get my mastery of the game up, I can make this happen. But it's also just, what am I doing? I'm just shooting at colors.
Yeah.
The other game we compared it to, I don't remember.
Squeeze Box.
Squeeze Box. at the very least had this sort of theming of like you're a prisoner and this is maybe some sort of torture or you're trying to escape, it's a trap. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but it had theming.
Right. This
doesn't have theming. It's just what it is, and what it is doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm going to give it a B for that.
For me, I really like the one little graphic thing because it had like shading on it.
Yeah,
that looked cool. That looked good. Graphically, it looked good, but playability, I could not get into this game. I'm gonna give it a C. It was just, I have no real interest in playing that again. I mean, Squeezebox I think did the same thing but better. Especially since on Squeezebox you can actually leave the screen and go to the next one and all that.
I would agree, and maybe that's the thing for this. We never did actually.
I feel like there was too many things going on. It was just kind of too many bars, But
and you could do 2 at a time if you got perfectly on, but it's like not worth it if you don't get perfectly on to try and readjust.
Right, because you're going to just readjust every time.
Yeah. So, I think that's also fair, though. Because, again, what the hell's going on? Not really sure. Stargunner. That one was kind of cool.
I liked it. It was very... go ahead and give your ranking.
Man... This is one where it's kind of difficult. I'm going to say a B for this as well. High B, though. Because it was... pretty cool. Visually very interesting. Lot going on. It was just about dodging and shooting, though. Yep. So it doesn't really get much more than that. It doesn't pull me into some like, whoa, this is crazy cool kind of situation. It was just like, wow, this is a neat take on this exact thing.
I'm gonna go with the low A because I for whatever reason, I just had fun with this one. I think, for one, looking at the screen, it looks a lot more chaotic than it actually was.
Sure, yeah.
And it seemed like, oh man, all this stuff's going on. But it's like when you're playing it, I didn't find that to be the case. I was like, oh, okay, just go to these things, go to that, go. And another kind of like that flow kind of game where you're just playing and you're not really totally, almost to a point where, we talked about this before, where you're not looking at the screen.
Yeah.
You're looking like through the screen kind of thing.
It's somewhat,
where you're just kind of just letting peripherals kind of just guide you around and
letting your heart to guide the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I had fun with it. Is it anything spectacular to where it is amazing thing? No, it's not an S, but I enjoy it. So I'm going to give it an A. So
I think that's totally fair. And so with that, we're wrapping on Telesys as well.
Yep.
Not as impressive a showing, but still some A's in there for both of us.
Yeah.
So, all in all, I'd say these two were fairly well-matched companies. They both did interesting things, but they didn't always hit the mark.
The thing I found interesting with Telesys is none of these are licensed. These are all
original.
Yeah. They're original. These are exclusives. Whatever that they were, just their games, and so that I gotta kind of give them props for that because the Sega games, they are based off of the original, Bally Midway games and things like that. That they're adaptations. So they already had source material to go off of.
Sure,
These guys didn't. They just came up with stuff and went, oh, let's just have some guy dodging coconuts. Okay, sounds cool. Make it. And they made all these games like within 1 year, and then they went out of business.
If they had stayed in business or gotten to do things a little later or over time, I think they really could have been one of the big guys in this scene. But
there you go.
Yeah, but
I think
it's a shame that we didn't see more from them, I guess.
Yeah.
But all in all, a good week, a good solid week.
We have very much a bell curve going on here, but nothing in the super high or super low. So.
No, we didn't have anything that really disappointed or super wowed, but I'd say it does weight towards the top a little bit for me, a little bit towards the bottom for you. So I'd say all in all, it's pretty good.
Most of these were kind of hard to rank because they were decent.
The problem is they're solid. None of these were so bad or so incredibly innovative they were just doing what they were trying to do. And they did that, but they didn't then, what they were trying to do wasn't somehow revolutionary for the 2600 at the time.
That's very true.
But I'm excited to see what these next couple of weeks have. We've only got a few weeks of these games left, of the actual like companies of Atari 2600 games.
Yep. We're getting down. So
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time.
We've been whittling away, and heck, put it somewhere on the screen, and you guys can see it in the title. I don't know what number this is for
I think
RetroGrade.
it's like 24 or something.
It's something like that, but it's been crazy.
Yeah,
it's been a crazy half a year doing this.
Yeah, that's been that long. Wow.
Weekly show, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You know, taking a gap here or there, but overall, been pretty cool. I'm enjoying this, and I cannot wait to see it wrap up, because who knows? Maybe we'll find a couple more S's in there.
Yeah, who knows? All right, guys. Well, that's it for this time. See you in the next adventure. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time, and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.